Hi everyone, welcome back to the podcast. Today we are doing a deep dive into heart rate variability, specifically how I was able to increase my own levels from about a 50 to 70 to over 100. And that was my norm for such a long time. And when I shared on social media my scores in the past, people would always freak out and be like, how did you get that? And I've got a few ideas. And when my levels dropped earlier this year in 2024, after a Christmas period where I was sick twice, so over Christmas week, I was hosting and I had some sort of cold flu, might have been COVID, and then I had, I think, tonsillitis after that. I was pretty run down. And since then, my HRV, my heart rate variability had dropped, and I was racking my brain trying to figure out what was causing it. And I think I finally cracked the code. So when I asked if you wanted an episode on this, I had so many responses. I think a lot of people are tracking HRV now, which, if you're not familiar with, heart rate variability is basically the amount of time between your heartbeats, which can fluctuate slightly. And with this score, the higher the better. So the higher the number is, the more regulated your nervous system is, and it can indicate that you're spending more time in the parasympathetic mode, which is the rest and digest, as opposed to the sympathetic fight and flight mode. Your score tends to be lower. But disclaimer before we really get into it, I feel like this is very bio-individual, and there are so many other markers of health than just one thing. Mine has always naturally been quite high, even when I had health struggles, whereas some of my other clients have worked really hard for a long time and their level is still at like a 40 or 50. Just for some context as well, I'm going to be 30 next month. I don't have any kids. I have a pretty low stress job, no major trauma. The main thing is health related stress over the years. So age and other factors definitely have an impact, but there probably are things that you could do, and hopefully this episode gives you some inspiration, some thoughts as to how you could raise yours if your levels are quite low. So yeah, I just had to scroll back over my Aura Ring data because this is how I personally track my levels, and I think how many people are tracking other devices, maybe like Whoop and Apple, the Apple Watch, I think do, but I'm not sure. Just remember there are potential errors with any form of test. So if it's showing an issue and you feel pretty good, don't just take that on its own. Look at your other labs like I do. Every year I do a full MLT to see what's going on. I did an episode on that earlier this year and actually showed my personal results. And if you want to learn more about the Aura Ring, I do have a whole podcast episode on that too, which I'll link in the show notes, and other things that I love on there, because HRV is just one of the markers, and I feel like people aren't getting enough out of their data and their appliances or devices, whatever you want to call them, in my opinion. So yeah, just to recap, up until the end of last year, my HRV was very commonly in the late 90s or early hundreds range. And I was feeling pretty good. And then I got ill in December and January, basically back to back. And then my average had dropped to between 50 and 80, but some days as low as 30, which is usually not the case at all for me unless I'm very ill. And I can often see this drop before I actually get symptoms, which is another benefit of the Aura Ring. I can see whenever I get a temperature spike that's not related to my menstrual cycle and my HRV drops or my heart rate's elevated, I usually know that something's going on. So I can maybe move some clients that day or reduce my workout or stress levels as much as possible, just to try and nip it in the bud as quickly as possible. So I was racking my brain for months, and similarly to how I figured out other health symptoms in the past and other causes, I began to track. I do what I do best in going deep and researching and trying to figure out what's going on. So I have immersed myself the past, it was like around 6 months, I really started to see a difference, because it sometimes would help certain things and sometimes it wouldn't. So I was struggling to find patterns and trends. But I used to do this with my skin as well. This is what really helped me figure out my biggest causes of acne. And the thing that helped the most was on my notes app in my phone, and you could even do this pen and paper, old school if you want to. I would start tracking different factors that I thought was leading to higher readings. So on the days that I would get maybe a 70 or an 80 with my HRV, which was on the higher end of normal for a while, I would write down anything that I've done differently. So have I had a later evening meal? Have I been meditating today? Have I taken a new supplement? Have I exercised? And I just write down a whole bunch of things from the day before, what I'd done. And then each time that would happen, I'd go back to that list and either add to it or put a little tally next to the same things that had happened. And then over time, I would start to see, okay, every time I do this or every time I don't do this, the HRV is higher. Same thing with my skin. After months and months and months of tracking, I realized for myself two big things for a few big things. For me, whenever I was supplementing with zinc, my skin was always better. Whenever I was supplementing with vitamin B6, my skin was always better. And there'd be times of the year that I was and I wasn't. So I'd look back and then I started to see, okay, maybe this is the common denominator, and I added it in and I saw improvement. So this is just for my personal skin. I do believe I have a condition called pyroluria, which means that I've just burned through those specific nutrients very fast. I get that confirmed with lab testing as well. So it's the organic acid urine test I use for intracellular B6, and it's the HTMA hair mineral test, which looks at zinc status. And it's intracellular zinc that you're wanting to, tissue level, not a serum zinc. And with with those tests, if you're interested, you can get the organic acid if we work together one-to-one, because it's a bit more of a complex test. Whereas if you want to go for the mineral test just to see what's going on for your symptoms, the zinc deficiency is not just associated with acne, it's associated with all sorts of different conditions, poor immunity, low stomach acid, thyroid issues. Then my I'm Balanced mineral course is going to be perfect because you get access to a functional lab test and you can see within a few weeks what your results are. But back to the episode. I realized every time, I was supplementing with those things in particular and certain things with my food and my exercise and my skincare even, I would make a note of everything that I'm doing with my skincare routine. That did have an effect, but it was mainly internal, like it is with most skincare conditions. So I finally figured it out as well for my HRV. And I think there's 8 things, which is quite a lot, honestly. I was thinking for a while it was one thing, what's going on? I was starting to think that my health was declining, or maybe I'm just getting older now, which was only a very brief thought because then I had to remind myself that when you turn 30, things don't go downhill and there's always going to be answers for things. And my HRV now at 29 is probably going to be different and higher than it is when I'm 60, but it's not normal for it to drop quite a few points after an illness. So I was looking at my timeline, I was looking at what was going on around the time, I was looking at my trends over the years, and it just didn't make sense. So that's when I decided to explore further. Starting off with vitamin D. So these are in no particular order. They're all as important as each other, in my opinion. So what I think had happened, and this has kind of been confirmed as well with additional testing, I think that I'd already become vitamin D deficient at the end of last year because we didn't really have a good summer here in the UK and I hadn't been in the sun much. And I also have genetically vitamin D receptor mutations called the VDR when I've done epigenetic testing before, which means that I just have a higher need for vitamin D and it's not absorbed as well. So I think I was already deficient because the only holiday that I'd had and the only real sun exposure that I'd had was in May, so earlier that year. And then from May till December, pretty much none, just the odd sunny day here and there. I also didn't have a garden at the time because I just moved into my new house and that was being done up. So even if it was a sunny day, we were in the process of moving and the garden was just like a mud pit, basically, so nowhere to go. And I was just a bit busy overall, so I didn't prioritize getting out into the sun when it did come out to play. And then I think that maybe contributed to the fact that I got sick that winter, but then that only exacerbated it further because when you're sick, you use up a lot of resources like zinc and vitamin D to overcome, for me, what was a viral infection. I'm also a better candidate for vitamin D supplementation. So I did do that earlier this year, just a very brief supplement with vitamin D because some people aren't. If you have a high calcium on this mineral test, the HDMA that I was talking about before, which you can test, then vitamin D supplements could actually make that worse. They could push the calcium higher and actually make you more fatigued, more inflamed. Whereas I've always been on the lower side of normal with my calcium. So taking a vitamin D supplement can actually boost that up even more. And I also tested in January. So after all this has happened, I started to see my lower HRV. That's when I did my full health MLT. I tried to do every year anyway, but that confirmed that I had low vitamin D. I think it was around a 50 or 60. That's in the depths of winter though, so it should be at its lowest point, but it should be higher than what it was. And I just have naturally higher needs for vitamin D. So I did a short course of supplementation because that was what was appropriate for me. And then this year I got lots of sun. I've had a holiday to Mallorca in May. I went to Cornwall in July. And it's just been, especially the past few weeks, I'm recording at the start of August. We've had quite a bit of sun here in the UK, and I've now got a lovely garden that I can go and sit in and work from on these lovely hot days. And I think that has really helped. The vitamin D has helped my HRV because it's so involved in everything really. It's more of a hormone than a vitamin. It helps with your immune system, your nervous system, and your brain. A lot of different things. It keeps your adrenals nice and healthy. I am going to retest in autumn before winter just to make sure that I'm not heading into winter again with a deficiency, but I can already guarantee that my levels are going to be good because I can feel a difference. And yeah, I think I'll be absolutely fine. So hopefully no need to supplement. And the way that I figured this out was that I think it was back in springtime. We had a pretty hot sunny day out of the blue, and I was in the garden for hours that weekend. And then the next morning, when I woke up and checked my scores, my HRV was the highest that it had been in a long time. So I just knew, and that's what started me going down this path, researching vitamin D. It's the only thing that I'd done differently that weekend. The next one kind of ties into it, but I also think it's a little bit different, is my light exposure. And I'm combining this with grounding at the same time because I usually do them at the same time as each other. So getting sunlight will provide me with vitamin D at certain times of the year, but they're also separate because I was just being more mindful of light in general over the past 6 months. So this is during the day, having little light breaks, even if it's a gloomy, dark day, I was still getting outside, even just standing in the garden for 5 minutes at multiple times throughout the day. And then in the evening, just be more mindful to avoid blue light. I've been watching less TV, I've been scrolling on my phone less at night, and I've been reading instead. And now having my dog and having a garden, it just means that I'm out the house a lot more. I was in an apartment last year for a few years, and that benefited me in so many ways because that was the place that I'd moved into after being exposed to mold, and it just really helped me to heal. But it was also very ungrounding, I think, because I was on the first floor of an apartment block and there was no outdoor space. It was just really hot in there. And now that I'm in a house, it is, I think, just energetically more grounded, and it means I could just go outside. Even for my breakfast, I could just sit with my feet in the grass and just enjoy grounding. So the negative ions that we get from the earth can help to reduce oxidative stress. It's one of the best things for inflammation and the nervous system. Both of these are completely free as well, which surprises a lot of people because I suspect some of you are coming on looking for the next supplement to try, but a lot of it is the free foundational stuff. So I'm very mindful to get outside, expose as much skin as possible, gradually built up my tan. I've hardly worn any sunscreen this year and not wearing any glasses or contact lenses. If you wear them, just trying to avoid them as much as possible. And I've always known the benefits of grounding, but I've honestly not prioritized it until this year because I was doing so well without. I was like, oh, I don't really need to do that. I feel good. My HRV is high. But when it dropped, I was doing everything that I can and experimenting with a ton of different things. So yeah, just being in the garden more, taking my shoes off even on a dog walk. So I am the crazy local person who's just walking around the field with no shoes on, doing my tapping and my therapy in the field. And then going on holiday, having a holiday a couple of times, being on the beach. You don't have to go abroad necessarily, but going to the beach, going to your local park or forest, getting your feet on the sand and the ground is so healing in so many different ways. People know that they feel good after a holiday and they think it's just because they've been away from work, but it's actually so many different factors. And then another thing that I've been doing is red light exposure. So I have a few products now from Bon Charge. My code and link will be in the show notes, but also did a before and after picture of my skin recently because I wanted to see physical proof and changes when I'm using a product like this regularly. So the LED face mask, I did a before and after, and the difference is insane. You can have a look at it on a little highlight that I've done on Instagram. So I now have the red light box that I use for things like my hair, my thyroid, any injuries, and I just have it just lighting up the room as well. So that's just a general one. But then I did receive the mask from them, and that's the one specifically that's helping my skin. I don't struggle with acne anymore, but the things that I've noticed a difference with is my just skin texture overall, the well, it's not discoloration, but just the texture is all just a lot more smooth, and there's no like darker patches or anything like that. My eye bags have gone down significantly as well, and just the congestion is cleared. So please look at the pictures because they're crazy. I'll link to the Instagram post in the show notes if I can. And then I've also got the red light or the red lens glasses from Bon Charge. I just love all of the products they do. Infrared saunas, they do all sorts of things on there. And yeah, light exposure will fall under that category. So getting it from the sun, getting red light in, which is an aspect of the sun, but it's just a bit more targeted. And then in the evening, just avoiding blue lights as much as possible. I have all the filters on my iPhone, my computer, just to make sure I'm covering it as much as possible. But I also don't go on my phone or work after like I don't work after about 7 p.m. latest. So pretty strict with that. If you've been listening to this podcast for a while now, you've probably heard me talking about the importance of minerals. I know that you're trying to balance your hormones, detox your liver, heal your gut, but minerals are actually key for these things to happen. They really are the spark plugs of the body. Basically, what I'm trying to say is that unless you're working on mineral balancing, you're probably not going to see results when it comes to things like energy, skin, digestion, and period problems. So many of us are mineral deficient or imbalanced these days due to soil depletion, chronic stress, poor gut health, medication usage, and big mistakes that I see clients making is supplementing in the wrong way and following intense healing practices. Trying to DIY your health with self-supplementation, restricted diets, and crazy detoxes can actually throw your mineral levels out of whack. It's important to know which specific minerals you have to determine the treatment that you need, and that's exactly why I created my mineral balancing course, I'm Balanced, so that you can get your hands on my favorite functional lab test, the hair tissue mineral analysis. Yes, this can be done from anywhere in the world. Here's what you get in this program. 1 complimentary HDMA test, over 8 hours of video education, helping you to understand your unique lab results and exactly what you need to do to balance things naturally. Plus the tools to support you and your family long-term with a deeper understanding of minerals. All this is just £447, including the lab test. Then long-term, you can just purchase additional tests for yourself and your loved ones, because this is a test that I recommend everyone does 1 to 2 times a year to make sure you're staying as balanced as possible. You could get started today with your hair sample and have answers within a few weeks once the results come back. Get instant access to the course material by clicking the link in the episode show notes. So yeah, number 2 and 3 are light exposure and grounding, and then just the holidays in general. I wish I could gift all of us another holiday by the end of the year, but they are so powerful for healing. The sunshine, the beach, slowing down, sea swims daily, reading. This obviously might not be the same if you go on a action-packed snow holiday, I don't know. But if you enjoy that, I think doing things that you love, following your joy, is always going to be beneficial to your stress and your nervous system. Next one is my gut health. So I have pretty good gut health overall, but again, the illness that I had put an extra stress on my gut, which is your immune system. And then if you followed along my health MOT journey and what happened with all of those lab results, you can listen back to the episode if you haven't. I had a round of antibiotics earlier this year to help clear up the potentially fertility impacting bacteria that had overgrown. That it was a vaginal test that I did, and I was advised, or just based on my own research, I thought it would be best to take antibiotics just because it was still present after doing a lot of gut work over the years. And I did a little cleanup of my gut afterwards with probiotics, prebiotics, fiber, some gut healing products like collagen. I used gelatin gummies, and all of that really helps. But I think my gut health did take a little bit of a hit from the illness, then shortly after the antibiotics that I took. And the digestive system doesn't just contain a lot of your immune system, it's highly filled with nervous system tissue as well, nervous tissue because of that gut-brain connection. We have the vagus nerve. So I've been doing a lot to support that area as well, and I think that's had a big impact. Next one is nervous system regulation. So this incorporates the vagus nerve work and just slowing down in general, which has been one of the more challenging things compared to going out and laying in the sun, although you can do both simultaneously, but I am guilty for laying in the sun and working at the same time. So the Dutch test that I did, which is the comprehensive hormone test within this health MOT, also showed that my adrenals were pretty stressed out and my cortisol was on the lower end of normal. So this really woke me up, and I really started to take my stress and nervous system regulation seriously. I honestly didn't think I was that stressed because my job is something that I enjoy. I compare my job and my lifestyle to other people and think because of the hours that I work compared to some other people, I have nothing to complain about. But there are like so many positive aspects to my job. I work from home, but I think it's a combination of spending a lot of time online on technology, just being a business owner, homeowner, navigating all of the things that come with that. It does put a lot of stress on you, and it could be subconscious stress. And I think that I've realized over the past few years, I'm an empath and I haven't been protecting my energy as well as I should be with clients. So in more complex cases, yeah, I was just finding that my energy was being drained more than I want to be. And that's nothing to do with the client. It's just myself. I was just hopping on calls back to back and not doing any practices like I do now to actually protect my energy. And I know you try to spend equal time that I do with clients for myself, having energy healing or working with a therapist to help balance that out a little bit more. But because I love it and I'm good at what I do, I just didn't think that it was stressful, but it actually was probably the main thing that was depleting my adrenals. And I'm very much in my masculine when taking client sessions and recording videos and podcasts like this, holding space for my clients. And yeah, I just needed more balance with my nervous system to handle that, which is something else that I've really worked on. So the weekly therapy sessions that I've been doing, I love my therapist as well, and I hope to have her on my podcast soon. Let me know if you would enjoy that. I have been reading more books, specifically fiction books, not books related to money or business or anything like that, like I would usually have done. The other things that I've mentioned up until now, grounding, sun, being in nature, also help my nervous system. I've taken targeted supplements based on what I needed from my lab results. And I've used tools like EFT, emotional freedom technique, or tapping, and journaling just to help my body handle that energetic exchange a lot better. And then last few things, another random find, but it makes sense when I look at it for what it is. So the next thing that I realized was when I went to a sound bath experience, and it wasn't just a regular sound bath, it was a sound cradle. So it was literally an elevated experience. You were in these little hammocks. And the night after I did that, it was on a Sunday afternoon. So the Monday morning when I checked my phone, my sleep was so good. And my HRV that night was about 130. which was, yeah, really high. And that's what I want the majority of the time. And that was just another random thing. So pay attention to these days that you have a particularly high or low reading, or a particularly good or bad day with your skin. And it could be something from the day before. With some other symptoms, it might be a bit of a delay. But with HRV, I usually find that it's something from yesterday. And that day overall was really good. I had a lovely chill day. I had a dog walk. I had lunch with my friend, and then this sound cradle experience. And they saged us as we went in. We had the sound bath, so this sound therapy, which is really healing to the nervous system. And over the past 6 months or so, I've had a few energy healing sessions, Reiki sessions, and it's always better. But the sound healing in particular for me was very noticeable. And it's the second time I've tried it. I did struggle the first time to relax, but I've gotten more into it this time. So I highly recommend that one. I go to Transcend Studios in, I think it's classed as Monton or Eccles, near the Trafford Centre. Highly recommend. I'm going to be going back there all the time now. And last but not least is me not drinking any alcohol pretty much for this year so far. And the past few years, I've really not drunk anything either, so it's not a huge change for me. And I think up until now, we're in August, I've only had 1 or 2 drinks in the whole of 2024. I wish I would have just not had any and just gone a full year without, really. But in previous years, there's probably been a few more occasions where I'd have a couple of gin and tonics, and my HRV is always lower the next day. My sleep is always worse for that night and the next few nights too. So if you're still drinking regularly, this is one of the first things that I would recommend trying. And I'm not even sure if I'll drink the rest of the year, because to me it's not really worth it, but I'm not someone who is going to create these rules, because if there's, again, another sunny day and I'm out and about and I do want a gin and tonic or a nice drink, then I'll allow myself to do that. But it's definitely not something that I'm ever going to do consistently, because I know the harmful effects. But there's also the flip side. If you are having a few drinks, but you're also out in the sun, you are with friends, you are having a lower stressed weekend out of work, then that could actually be supportive. So you don't have to drink. There aren't really any benefits of drinking alcohol, and you could maybe have an alcohol-free cocktail or something. But yeah, for me, it does make a huge difference, and I just find that it's not really worth it. So those are the big things that helped to increase my HRV recently. As a recap, vitamin D, sunlight, grounding and light exposure in general, a couple of well-needed holidays thrown in there, working on my gut health, working on my nervous system regulation, stress management, the sound baths and energy healing, and consuming minimal alcohol. These may be different for you, but I thought I'd share my experience in case one or multiple of them help. But I've also remembered done so much work over the years. So you might already be doing these things and not really seeing a difference. And it's definitely not a comprehensive list at all. And everyone's so very different as to what works for them. For some people, having a massage might help. For me, it doesn't really make that much of a difference. I love them, but with HRV, it doesn't really change things. For you, it might be yoga or having your evening meal at a different time of day. And the other things that I've done over the years might have been what allowed it to bounce back quicker this time. So I've done deeper gut protocols. I've detoxed from mold. I've focused heavily on mineral balancing. I've done a lot of subconscious reprogramming work, to name a few. So just know, if you are doing these things or try them and they don't have a massive difference, it could be that you actually need to go to these deeper healing modalities. So if you are wondering what's next, or if you're wanting further support from me, I'd firstly recommend my foundations bundle. And this is if you're brand new, or even if you've been on your journey for a while and you're just wanting a little taster and a really affordable way to get more education from me, and that goes much deeper than what we cover here on the podcast. My foundations bundle would be amazing. It's only £111, and within that you get 6 of my most loved, juiciest masterclasses on what I believe are the foundational subjects that you need to be working on, regardless of what condition or symptom that you're dealing with. So we have the power of the subconscious mind, stress, trauma, and the nervous system, which is very fitting for today's episode, supporting your female menstrual cycle and living in harmony with your cycle, Mastering Your Metabolism, Optimizing Sleep, and Gut Health and Detox Masterclass. Each of these are between 60 and 90 minutes long, so I've bundled them all together. These are my most loved, most important masterclasses that I've done, and I want you to get access to them at this really affordable price. Not only that, you're also going to receive my healthy grocery shopping list, because we know that food and nutrient-dense food and home-cooked meals are a foundational thing too. So I want to share my printable, healthy shopping list so you can start filling your kitchen and your cupboards with healthy produce. And then also my favorite non-toxic products guide. So it's a Google Drive link, and it's got all of my favorite products where I get online groceries from. It's got my discounts for supplement websites on there. Both of these are usually reserved for my one-to-one clients, but I want you to get access to them with this foundations bundle. So that is an amazing thing for everyone. If you've not already got access to some of these within my one-to-one package, this is actually included for my newer one-to-one clients. So if you want to skip that and you just want to go straight to the one-to-one, you'll get access to all of that, plus the 6 months of one-to-one coaching within my hormone reset package. This comes with a HTMA and other functional lab tests if you want to, but the HTMA is included within the price. You can get started with payment plans for as little as £585 per month. And I would love to support you on that transformative journey. This is my signature program. If you've seen me share testimonials and client wins online, it's probably coming from this package. My one-to-one work is truly how you're going to completely change your life over the next 6 months. And I would love to help you through that. Otherwise, there is a group program potentially starting in September. This is just based off requests, like people asking when's my next group, and I didn't have any planned, but I really feel like starting a group program mid-September. So if you're interested in working on your nervous system and your gut health and your minerals and all of that in a group setting, which will be lower cost than the one-to-one, so kind of mid-range support, then stay tuned for that one as well. I might do some podcast episodes nearer to the time. But I hope you enjoyed that episode. If you are struggling with low HRV, or you're like me and you just want it as high as possible, give these things a try. I would love to hear from you if any of these things in particular worked, or even if you have your own little hacks that you do that make a big difference, please let me know. So I want to share it and just get as many of you as possible with super high, really balanced HRV levels. So comment that on my latest Instagram post or stories that are sharing about this episode, and I'll let you know in my stories if there's any in particular that I'm going to try out. So enjoy the rest of your day, whatever you're up to, and I'll see you back here next week for another episode. I really hope you enjoyed this episode. If you did, I would love for you to leave me a rating and review on your podcast app, as this helps to support the show and it allows it to reach more people with this valuable information. Come and say hi over on Instagram. I'm at Viva Natural Health. And if you haven't already, check out my website, vivanaturalhealth.co.uk, for tons more free resources and to discover how I could support you further. I currently offer one-on-one consultation packages if you want my top level support, then more affordable group programs and self-paced online courses. So there really is something for everyone. Enjoy the rest of your day, and I'll see you back here next week for another episode.